All right, folks, Vitek here from Wani, and with us today we have the one and only Tomas Haake of Meshuggah. How are you doing?
Very good, man. Very good. Yeah.
The Violent Sleep of Reason, probably, the most anticipated release of 2016. I'm sure the mood in the Meshuggah camp must be ecstatic.
Yeah, well, a lot of people haven't really heard much of it yet, so
Yeah.
we'll see how they receive it once it's kind of out.
Mm-hmm. I get this question a lot from the Meshuggah fans, and I don't think there seems to be an answer for this. Maybe you could answer that. The question is, why is Meshuggah so damn good?
Well, I don't know, man. It's an awesome question because it sounds pretty fucking awesome when you hear it.
Right.
But, we've been doing this for a long time, and we've been fortunate as well to find, each other. It was a lucky stroke, basically. And, to play this kind of metal and to be able to do it for so many years and make a living off of this kind of narrow niche of music that it still is, it's kind of amazing to us. But there's no easy, answer to, if you think that we're great, that's super. But there's no real easy answer to why are you great. I don't know. We just always tried to kind of do something cool, and we were lucky that we met each other, in the early years of Meshuggah. The first couple of years, for me as a drummer, it changed me completely in a year or two, where initially I really didn't know how to play this stuff. So for me, joining Meshuggah meant that I joined a band where the other musicians were way better than me, way ahead of me.
Right.
And that was very lucky for me because that made me, I had to step up, I had to kind of, either that or they would have, it wouldn't have worked out. So that's another thing for anyone to become really good. You got to play with other really good people, and hopefully better people that are better than you, so that really pushes you to become, better at your instrument. And that's, for a lot of people, that's not necessarily an easy thing to find those other, musicians to form a band with, or, so in that sense, we were very fortunate from the get-go,
Definitely. And always I'll actually start with the lyric side, because that's something which you have always been the main member in terms of writing lyrics. So that seems to be very interesting to me from the elements of, let's say, the human nature, the self, contradictions, everything which you write about is really on point. And is there some sort of a similarity between the romantic era painting of The Sleep of Reason by Francisco, which is on the same lines as the album, because the theme does sound similar?
Yeah, lyrically it kind of ties in with the meaning. Basically, when you're asleep and don't act or react to what's going on around you, it has very violent implications and effects. So that's kind of the idea of the title, and also the title track. Obviously, a lot of the lyrics are kind of about current events and the what's been going on, in the Middle East, and then kind of the humanitarian, catastrophe that's been going on there, and,
right.
and armed conflict and things that we see around us today, and for the last few years, maybe more than ever. And so that's not the only topic of the album, but it kind of, there's surrounding topics that are kind of close to that, So yeah, that's as per usual. The topics are fairly serious, and something that I personally take seriously.
Mm-hmm.
The music has that kind of output. The music is very serious in a sense, and aggressive, and so you kind of want to write lyrics that both are something that you feel you want to write about, but also something that kind of backs up the aggression of the music. So it tends to be a little dark, but that's to be honest, that's the world today.
Definitely.
It's kind of dark. So
Yes, that is true. And one of the examples probably is Ivory Tower, which seems to be more like the band conveying the human kind's tendency to involve, let's say, ourselves with the meaningless intellectual pursuits, devoid of all
yeah,
life's practicalities.
yeah.
Interestingly, this term kind of originates from the biblical Song of Solomon.
Oh yeah. I guess that's where the expression comes from. But I didn't actually write that lyric. That's the one lyric on the album that Morton wrote.
Okay.
So yeah, I wasn't responsible for that one.
All right, and I really like the way you guys have been creating this tension through the music that is gripping, that is the climatic, and that's, in my opinion, one of the best Meshuggah trademark sound, and that's clearly audible on the new album. I can give an example of a song like Nostrum that has those tense moments where you're basically grabbing the listener into an ambient yet meditative session. So, how are you able to find and create combinations instrumentally in such a way that it doesn't sound mundane?
Yeah, I mean it's not always easy. It's something that we the main kind of goal and the approach to writing an album for us, or to write a song, is that we always try to just find new grips and new kind of sounds or a new vibe, even though we have this framework that we kind of have to be within.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're the metal that we are, and we always want to sound like us, so it's immediately audible that it's Meshuggah. But at the same time, we try to really push ourselves to finding new venues, to new avenues to kind of go down, within the context of what we're doing, and trying to find like new interesting things to sound new to us,
Mm-hmm.
that's something you haven't really heard before. So with that kind of being the main goal, the songwriting process is, not only kind of a lengthy one, because there's a lot of like scrutinizing and going back and forth and like changing things. So
Right.
But yeah, definitely.
Definitely, that's really good to hear. And since we're talking about the songs here, it's the whole progressive element of Meshuggah. The way the songs are arranged, the polyrhythmic and the polytonal arrangements seems to be, more like a walk in the park for you guys. But the important thing here is, how do you manage to find parts that fit and parts that don't? Probably there are times when you had to remove a good sounding section from a song just because it seemed to conflict within the song.
Oh yeah. Well, first of all, it may sound like a walk in the park, but it definitely is not.
You're right.
Not to write it and not to play it either. It's definitely a challenge, but that's also one of the aspects of what we're doing. We kind of need to challenge ourselves, and
Right.
In doing that, you automatically try to find new things that you haven't necessarily played before. Like little tidbits of styles, at least, that kind of take you to a different place than what you've heard us do previous. So that's kind of the main goal there. But yeah.
That sounds really great, because even the lower tunings basically are the trademark Meshuggah sound. But despite the low tunings on the guitars, how do you manage to make sure that the bass finds space in the music? I mean, I can give an example of a song like Into Decay that has this very interesting layering and textures being created between the bass and the guitars.
Yeah, I mean, the bass, it's definitely difficult music to mix, when you have, like you said, when you have that much kind of low end and the kind of down tuning that you have with the 8 strings. And we do on this one maybe more than before. Do you think about that a lot, where maybe a riff was initially down on like the lowest string, but you pick it up like an octave to be able to have the bass kind of go underneath, like in regular rock and roll, so to speak, where they don't play in unison. So there's a lot of kind of going back and forth with that too on this album, and also a lot of like harmonies between bass and guitar, which is something that we haven't really done a lot before either. This time around, Dick, our bass player, was more involved in the production of the album and also in writing the album. So he had a bigger say in being a bass player. Of course, in a good way, he kind of made the bass come out a little more than you maybe heard it before. I think the separation between the bass and the guitars are better on this one. It's a really, you can kind of hear that low grunt of the bass is kind of definitely audible in most of the parts and the song. So that's another important aspect. I think on some albums we've done, the bass is like just another kind of dimension of the guitar in a sense, whereas on this one, I think the separation is more there, so it's kind of a cool listening in that way. It makes for kind of a gruntier, like more angry sound, if you will.
Right, definitely.